What's going on, family? Back with another JT's Mixtape, episode number 32. And if you guys are enjoying these podcasts, please give me a 5-star review on either Apple or Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you. I have got a podcast sponsor. I was happy to partner with Modern Roots Life, and this is really cool because it's a Christian company. Modern Roots Life, they provide natural health supplements, natural salts, beef liver, magnesium, copper, lots of things. Natural, third-party tested supplements. And I think for me, I often complain about being very tired and having a bit of brain fog trying to do everything that we're trying to do. So I just started my regime. And so I'm excited to see how it works out because I think like you guys in this community that we don't really want to go to the doctor anymore. And I'm not saying you'll never have to, but I'm saying that if I can be more healthy, then I'm doing my best to try to do that now. Physically and spiritually and mentally. So if you guys want to check out Modern Roots Life, check out the link in my description. People often ask how they can support me. Well, I think it's really cool if you can support me by supporting people that support me. And you get something in return. And obviously being healthy is a pretty good return.
Come closer, my child.
What's going on, Brian? How you doing?
Doing great. Ready for another day of interesting discussions in our very weird world that we have.
Indeed. I was telling Brian before, I said, I know the last couple of podcasts have been kind of, I don't know, talk heavy, less videos, but believe it or not, we're not going to talk about the devil being a man. Maybe it might come up naturally, but we're not going to spend another hour or two talking about that. But we do have a little bit of follow-up. I know that Brian mentioned just a second ago that we spent a long time talking about Ian Carroll and his new jewelry, or I wouldn't say jewelry, his new bracelet. Brian, what's the update?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not 100%, but the last video you posted, he didn't have it on. So I guess maybe he just was like, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't have it on. He's probably done some research. That's my guess. I don't know.
Probably a smart move to not wear it this next one, because I think if he wore it, despite all the opposition, I think that would be even more telling. I mean, I'm not sure if this is that significant that he didn't wear it, but like I said, better late than never to take it off.
Yeah, hey, whatever. Could be good. I mean, yeah, it's great. I think it's great that it would be great if he burned it or cut it or something, but taking it off's good enough, I guess.
Well, for now, it's a good first step, but well, if anything, we were saying that maybe this can cause more awareness for other people, because I know that some people probably did not know about the red Kabbalah bracelet, but now, this audience, if they didn't already know, which probably lots of them did, now they do. So it was a good teaching moment. So God can use all things together for our good, for those who love him and are called to his purpose. So that we can use even an example of somebody doing what's not right to point out what is. So I would say that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Good thing for sure.
But I don't even know where exactly I want to go to start today. I do have I got a number of videos. I thought one that really kind of struck me this weekend was a video from Jordan Peterson, or about Jordan Peterson. Did you see this, Brian? Kind of coming through like the X sphere.
I don't know if I saw this. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see any Jordan Peterson stuff pop up.
Yeah, so if you guys aren't aware of who Jordan Peterson is, he's a intellectual, and his big claim to fame was, or he was infamous because he's from Canada and he was a professor there, and the university wanted him to start using the pronouns of whatever people wanted him to use. And so he pushed back against that. And then so he became probably before the 2016 election. I know this was like really big, was that he was kind of a voice for freedom of speech. And through that, he's an author, and he's done every big podcast you've ever heard of.
And he defended masculinity in a lot of ways to where it like just like slaughtered a lot of those feminist arguments, and that's what made him really big, those ones.
Right. He had a message to young men about like just kind of simple things about being a man, and not not like that contrast to the people discussing toxic masculinity and making being a man's man being a bad thing. So he did have a voice in that time, and I think it was an important voice. But now it's like things have kind of shifted where Christ is king. And if you're not willing to say Christ is king, so now we're kind of like, yeah, it's fine. Like the things you said, we don't disagree with, but he is an intellectual in the way that he views the Bible almost in, I would say probably like in a Gnostic way, because it's like, oh, there's good moral teachings in the Bible. And I don't really believe it, but if you live like it says to live, then it's a better place. It's kind of almost like Benjamin Franklin, right? That's kind of what people say of him, even though he was in like the Hellfire Club and he was involved probably in lots of wicked things. He was obviously in the club like anybody else was in the club. But yeah, so Jordan Peterson has a show on the Daily Wire. And we've talked about the Daily Wire and obviously who they're aligned with. And it
Pretty
seems
obvious.
interesting the way that he's he recently came out against what they call the woke right. And basically he's calling everyone who disagrees with him like a troll and an anti-Semite and things like that.
Oh wait, I think I did see that video. Was it a kid that went up to him? Did
Oh
you see
yeah,
that
yeah.
one?
So that's what it is. So
I think I did see it.
yeah,
They-
so I'm going
they
to show
asked
this
him.
clip. And so Jordan Peterson was on a show that was called 20 Atheists versus One Christian, or One Christian versus 20 Atheists. And let's just say the choice of putting Jordan Peterson in that spot as the one Christian is interesting. And this clip is very telling. So let's just play this clip.
Well,
And I mean
either
it,
you're a
'cause I
Christian
won't
or you're
talk
not.
to you if you're a smartass.
Oh, either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
I could be either of them, but I don't have to tell you.
I think everyone should look at the title of the YouTube channel. You're probably in the wrong YouTube video,
You're really quite something, you are.
aren't I? But you're really quite nothing, right? You're not a Christian.
Okay, I'm done with him.
Dang. I don't know, man. That's not the clip that I saw, actually. That's a pretty controversial thing. But dude, he straight said you're nothing because you're not a Christian. Like the atheist dude was kind of right in some capacity.
But that's the thing. It's like, yeah, he nailed him to the wall. That boom roasted. Because it is interesting because the contrast is the atheist believes in nothing, but at least he's back to position. And then this guy here he's not willing to commit. So yeah, right. That was the perfect comeback. You're really something. No, well, you're actually nothing.
Oh,
Because you
man,
won't even
dude.
admit what you are. And I think that it's kind of like that when you get pushed into that position, it's like he's being an intellectual, but he's intellectually dishonest. Because why is he the one who's advocating for Christian values when he doesn't even really believe? Because I've seen a clip, was going back, I don't know, it was probably about 3 years ago. And it was like Jordan Peterson talking about, what if Jesus is actually really who he said he was? It's like it's almost like he was like getting moved when he was talking about it.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know what you're talking about.
And a lot of people were saying, "Oh, look, he's about to find Jesus. He's about to find his faith." But it was like that intellectualism in him kept him from believing fully, because it's like that he can't get past that part of himself of being too smart to believe something that has to be taken on faith. And then so we've often said this. The atheists typically will not admit this, but they believe what they believe on faith too. And we know what the Bible says about those who don't believe in God, says there's no God. Psalm 14:1 says, the fool says in his heart there's no God, because all his deeds are wicked. Because it's not about intellectually here. It's not up here why you don't believe in God. It's in here. But the same thing, it's like the Jordan Peterson and that guy are the same. He's more honest about what he believes. And that's why people would say that people like Jordan Peterson, he's a grifter. I mean, he's like appealing to Christians, but he doesn't really believe it. And the truth be told is like, I don't really know what he believes. But if he can't say that openly, it's like we were talking about last week about how cowards do not get into the kingdom. And I know some people in the comment section push back about the shy and the cowards. No, it's kind of like that drunkards do not inherit the kingdom of God. If you got drunk one time in your life, does that make you a drunkard? No, it does not. So if you were a coward at one point in your life, obviously a good example of this is the Apostle Peter. He got questioned if he knew Jesus, and he denied him 3 times. And obviously he repented, and then he's the Apostle Peter, Saint Peter. So there's an opportunity for redemption, but when you get pushed into that place, what does the Bible say? What does Jesus say? If you deny me before men, I'll deny you before my Father. So there's an opportunity right there, and we're not saying that's his last one. But yeah, like he was a coward because he couldn't even say what he believes.
The thing is, I don't think he knows what he believes, to be completely honest, because he's wrestled publicly about his belief and faith in Christ, and I've seen him talk about his struggles with understanding the existential image of Christ or whatever, and he thinks Christ might be a metaphor, and he thinks all these things, right?
Yeah,
so
Gnostic. That sounds really Gnostic.
It's very Gnostic, and so like he's on the borderline of wrestling with that idea, and I think he's coming to the conclusion of not, because here's what happens with people like him: if you are too intellectual about your faith, you either have to get to a point where you illogically believe things that are just go pure faith, or you believe in things of the spirit and you sound woo-woo. Either way, ultimately, you either have to accept some things on faith, ultimately, in the end. And Jordan Peterson doesn't really accept things on faith very much. He only accepts things on fact. And he's not going to go into the space where, he's not going to walk into the space of spiritualism, it doesn't seem like. He veers away from spiritualism in a lot of ways. I'm very intellectual in the way that I perceive things, but bro, there's things that I have seen in the spiritual realm I can't sciencely explain. So it's to me, it's it was hard for me to let that go. But eventually I just was you know what? God, Jesus is real, God is real. There's things I can't answer. And I just had to relinquish that. But Jordan Peterson is not the kind of guy that seems like he wants to even relinquish that. So what he's doing is he's just stuck in this logic loop. And it's you see the man contemplating his faith in Christ and maybe Catholicism, but that's weird. But then there's this, and then and it's he's grasping little pieces of truth, which all lies have a little bit of truth. And if you're not listening to your spirit, you ain't going to know what the real truth is, because you're going to be stuck grasping at these straws of truth from everything. And everything has a little bit of truth in it. But that's all he's doing. He's just grabbing little pieces of it, and he doesn't fully know. I don't know why he would even go on such a show if he doesn't fully believe in Christ, and he hasn't fully come to that understanding. It's bro, what are you doing? I'd go on the show. That sounds fun. I'd totally go on that thing.
Well, he's got a lot of hubris, for one, is to be able to go in there, and it's it's a bit arrogant to go walk in there without being guarded up. And of course, I said, I know that to me, the way that I would argue with an atheist, I typically just wouldn't, because I don't think it's all that fruitful. But I mean, the smart way to debate an atheist is to dig down to what they actually believe. And kind of in a vacuum, it does seem kind of silly to believe in a sky god who did everything, and you can't see him, but he created everything. Yeah, I mean, that is a fantastical idea, but no more fantastical than believing that everything came from this thing that you could put on the tip of a pin that exploded, and then everything was created through that. Now that's ridiculous. So yeah, you need faith to believe in the invisible God, creator of all things. But you need a lot more faith to believe the other thing. And that's what you always have to kind of chip at, is listen, let's at least compare apples to apples, not apples to oranges. I don't want you can obviously you could attack people's faith in the things they can't prove, which that's what an atheist would do. But then you have to turn it back on them and to make it seem what's more logical. It's way more logical that a being outside of this place created this place, because it does makes no sense that something in this place was already there and then it exploded and it created, it denies all their own laws, right? Is that the laws of entropy and things like that. It's like it's that things are getting better, but they're not getting better. So if that was true, like things would continue to improve, right? But they don't. They go from, it's the chaos theory, right? Things go from order to chaos, not the other way around, even though that's the foundation of what they believe.
Jordan Peterson has figured out that it takes more faith to believe in atheism than it does religion, but I don't think he's realized, or atheism versus Jesus, I'll say, but I don't think he's figured out that it's like Jesus is the one true answer, is what it seems like. It's like he knows there's some truth there, but he's just kind of like meandering about trying to avoid it. It's a really good example. That kid kind of pinpointed him like perfectly. Like that's really what he kind of is.
Well, you know what the thing is too, though, that again, I don't necessarily trust everybody, and I don't necessarily trust the fact that he said everything that he says is honest. Because if the guy's not even willing to say if he's a Christian or not, I think the reason he probably, obviously the answer is he's not one, because otherwise, again, you can't be a Christian and deny it like that. Mm-hmm. Again, you can repent, but the point is that if you get put in that place and you deny it, it's pretty telling. So the real question is, what does he believe? Because he says because he's on a show where he's not an atheist. Mm-hmm. So he believes in a God. I wonder if this guy is in one of these clubs. And so I know that to get into one of these secret clubs, you cannot be an atheist. You have to have a faith in some kind of a deity. But maybe he's not putting his faith in the Christian deity. And the really interesting part was, so Jordan Peterson was getting roasted by both sides, obviously now, because and he's trying to play the middle, and it's like I think it has something to do with the fact that he's on the Daily Wire, right? And of course, he's appealing to lots of Christians, right? So he doesn't want to say he's not one, but he's not willing to say he is one. So both sides are crushing him, and so that website, whatever, that YouTube channel, Jubilee, they changed the thumbnail, the title, to not one Christian versus 20 atheists. It's Jordan Peterson surrounded or something like that. Really? So, yeah. So because that kid, obviously he knew that that's the show he was invited to be on. He was going to argue with the Christians.
So the show is called One Atheist versus 20 Christians?
It was called One it's more like 21 atheists, but it was One Christian versus 20 atheists, but they changed the thumbnail and the title to Jordan Peterson surrounded, to him to try to maybe to defend him a little bit. The fact that that kid, I don't think that kid got the show wrong they were on. I don't think Jordan Peterson knew what the title was. He knew what the title was, otherwise he would have argued, but he didn't.
That's pretty sad. But Jordan Peterson, what do you believe? Come and talk to us. We'll talk to you.
If you're allowed to say.
If we're allowed to,
if you're allowed to say.
Yeah, here's the other weird part. It's like, whatever Jordan Peterson has got going on and his thoughts and his talking points, who knows? I think he's figuring it out. Maybe, hopefully, he figures out the truth. Maybe, but then again, maybe he's already a part of some occultic thing, or who knows what at this point. You know what I do know is that he was asked a question about that country where they wear the little hats, and
I'm sure he had a very diplomatic answer.
His diplomatic answer was so uneducatedly naive, and it was so for the murder of children. It was this is weird, bro. You're pretty logical. I feel like you don't know anything about the subject. It was almost
that's
wow.
The thing, bro. This is kind of reminiscent of the Ian Carroll subject, where it's this guy doesn't really want to be woo woo. This guy doesn't know this thing, and it's the one thing you know about both those guys, and Peterson's particularly, he's obviously very intelligent. I'm sure he's got a way higher IQ than both of us. He's really, really smart. But so for him to be on the platform he's on 1 million podcasts. So obviously he writes books. I'm sure he reads a lot of books. I'm sure he reads a lot of newspapers. He's not uninformed. So when he comes off sounding stupid like he did there, it's because he's being dishonest. It's not because he's dumb or uninformed. It's because he doesn't really want to say what he believes. And he knows who butters his bread. which is Ben Shapiro, and we know who Ben Shapiro aligns with. It's not the U.S. of A.
Nope. Unfortunately, that's how it goes.
All right, let's
next?
Let's switch gears. Yeah, we're gonna try to get some more videos this day because again, we talked a lot in the last couple. This was an interesting video sent to me by my bro Max Powers. Really interesting.
You know why they keep you at the Galapagos? Why, if you go, you're monitored 24/7? Why 98% of the islands are off limits to the public? It's because of places like San Cristobal Island. You know, the one named after that dog-headed Christ bearer, St. Christopher. And St. Christopher Island, one of the lesser known islands, restricted for environmental preservation. Bullshit. Now pay attention. There are ruins there that defy everything we're told about history. Not Polynesians, not South Americans, but something older. Locals told stories of giant dog-headed beings that once lived there, only to be driven underground after some kind of catastrophe. Oh, and the stone on that island? It has the same interlocking design as places like Machu Picchu, Sacsayhuaman, and Pumapunku. We're talking laser precision cuts that modern tech still struggles to replicate. And yet, the mainstream wants us to believe some primitive culture with no written language did this with copper chisels? Please! This video is for entertainment and what's that thing people say? Oh, right, and satire purpose only.
Lot to unpack there. That's pretty interesting, right? The Galapagos Islands, which infamously, from a Christian perspective, is where we got Darwin in the theory of evolution that is written like it's a fact in all the science books, even though it's clearly embarrassingly not.
That's fascinating. The Galapagos Islands. It's like, dude, I've never really considered that. Didn't they supposedly say that's where Godzilla came from in the story of Godzilla? Something off the Galapagos Islands? I think that's
I mean, I don't know all the Godzilla mythos, believe it or not, but I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, it does make sense to me that this place was probably more significant than weird lizards and weird birds. That this is the place that always gets mentioned. And yeah, I had no idea, but I mean, it tracks with everything else we've learned. Is places like, I know Derek Olson's talked a lot about it, and we've mentioned it many times, Easter Island, that we often see the Moai statues, the very bizarre, very remote place in the world. It makes no sense. But what they never show you is there was megalithic walls and structures there too. So the fact that the Galapagos Islands have megalithic structures, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I guess it's just not something that's come up on my radar. But that connection with St. Christopher is even weirder, right?
That's very weirder. I mean, it's called St. Christopher Island. That's fascinating. And if the legends tell of giant dog-headed people, what's 100% Canaanite Gentiles. That's 100% what that is. It's exactly what I talk about. Talk about the giant dog-headed people all the time. That's so fascinating. I gotta look into this more now. I gotta research this a whole lot more. There's stories about that. I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, I know. I had not done much to prep for that, other than I saw that video. Yeah, so we should maybe we should save that for an episode of the Ancient Angels podcast, because obviously that's right up your alley. But I've heard many people theorize that. Okay, you think about like the cradle of civilization, especially after Noah's Ark comes to rest on Mount Ararat. And there's a lot of articles recently where they found it. I mean, I thought they found that a long time ago. I don't know why people are acting like it's a new thing that they found evidence of it. That being said, so you have this dispersal of the sons of Noah going into, going south. J-Pass lines seem to going north. And then you have Ham and Shem kind of resting in parts of the Middle East, Northern Africa, and obviously eventually their descendants make their way around the known earth. Now, what many people have believed or have theorized so then you have God sending the Israelites in there to purge out the giants out of Canaan. And then many people have had mythologies of the giants being so awful that eventually, obviously humanity tried to purge them out of wherever they were. Mm-hmm. So what if this is a remnant that was chased out by people like Joshua and the Israelites, and maybe some of the even other peoples who chased the giants out of the land, and then they went to like one of the most remote parts of the whole world, so they could live by themselves.
That's actually exactly what's happened to most of the giant populations. Like, they were actually found on the Catalina Island, and then there was a race of them that they moved to islands, and they just lived on islands. Like, it was very, very common for the giants to go to whole islands and inhabit the entire island. And so they did that at Catalina Island, as well as
that's off the coast of California, right?
California,
is that somewhere near San Diego, or is it?
Yep. And they did that there, and they did it in another island. Sir Francis Drake talks about them. I believe it's Sir Francis Drake talks about going to the island and seeing a race of dog-headed men, and they actually the story's kind of comical. They actually were kidnapping women from a native tribe. Okay, not comical in that sense, but disturbing, right? So they were kidnapping women from a native tribe, and the men came out and attacked them. And so they got on their boat and fled from the men killing them, from them trying to kidnap their women and do terrible things to them. And so they fled to the island across the way. And when they got to the island, they said these giant dog-headed men came out of the island, out of the tree lines or whatever. And they freaked out, and they got back on the boat and went back to the people that they just pissed off. Basically, they were like, shoot, they're like, we just made these people angry because we tried to kidnap their people, and now we're facing with dog-headed giants. They're like, we'd rather deal with the normal humans that we just pissed off. So they went. It was like, it's a very interesting story, because they were stuck in some kind of weird predicament. But it says that they came off of the island, and there was giant dog-headed people.
Interesting. So I know in Catalina Island, I remember one of these shows I watched about giant remains. Yeah, that was a place where they dug up. I can't remember what the guy who did it was, but yeah, he dug up all these giant skeletons.
He made a whole museum out of their bones, bro. So there's old photos of this whole entire hut. He had a hut made out of the bones of leftover graves that he dug up. And and there was giant ones he found as well. And he talks about it, and there's photos of them. But they've depicted that, we can't really determine from the photo exactly how tall it is, but we've guesstimated that it was I think 9 feet tall in one of the photos that he has of them. And you're just like, that's pretty dang big. And it looks like it has 6 fingers even. And you're like, that's pretty weird. And he had a whole museum, and then all of his stuff went missing, like usual. And you're like, where'd it go missing to, huh?
The cover-up museum. Every time. Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking, though, I couldn't help but think, so what if you have dog-headed people, the cynocephalies is their, who came up with that name, by the way?
I don't know. It just reminds me of syphilis or something. That's all I think of.
A little bit, I guess. But just think about this, is that when you get into the cryptid zoology, the cryptid classes, most often people talk about Bigfoot. But if you research this topic, lots of people talk about Dogman. Do you consider that it's possible that these dogmen could be a remnant or a one-off of the cynocephalies?
I think dogmen in regards to that is different than the cynocephaly. These are two distinct different things, because dogman is more akin to the demonic variants of Anubis, and dogmen are violent, and they can transmute reality. They can appear and disappear. Okay, the cynocephali were physical bodied entities with dog heads. They're different than the Anubis, who is the guardian of the underworld. So Anubis actually, and they also look different. Okay, Anubis was known for having really long arms, and in a lot of the depictions, or Dogman has really long arms like monkeys, and they have black like heads. They're black and their ears are always pointed up. But the dogmen variants that they have look like there's a mix of them. Some of them look more humanish in stories and accounts, and some of them they blend in with our physical traits of humans in a sense. They just have more dog-esque elemental components. So they are similar, but they're different than Dogman. Dogman is a spiritual being, I think.
But could it be possible that this is a corrupted version of the cynocephalies that's, because obviously we're talking about people seeing them now.
Yeah, people seeing them now, I mean, like,
so they could be pretty corrupted over the course of like 1,000 years.
Sure, maybe the dogmen that we have today could be a physical thing that's physically around, but I think it's more likely that maybe the dogman that we see today was maybe like the OG that created the race of dog people, and maybe that's what that is, and it's his spirit that's left, and his spirit is somehow able to take a tangible form, because they disappear and they come to reality and then they reappear. And people have told stories of shooting bullets at dogman and it goes through them and it like doesn't affect them. So you see what I'm saying? Like they're like,
well, that's it's really the same kind of stories as Bigfoot, except it's just a different look.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying is like maybe Dogman is like the OG that created the cynocephali. Like maybe that was the original demon that was involved in the transmutation of the dog, and that was like the OG, and that's why it's still around. Is like whatever the Dogman people were like the first Nephilimized creation, and then the creations thereafter were just like more animalistic in nature / genetically humanish or something. You see what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I got you. I mean, it's obviously it's just like, I mean, it's hard to know for sure, but
it was a weird one.
It's hard not to make the connection at least a little bit. There's doghead men, and then people talk about dog men. So
I don't know what the connection is, to be completely honest. I've tried to figure it out. I don't really know what it is.
Okay, well, I got a nice video to go right along with this, because I think this obviously fits, and this is, and only a giant could fit through. Well, no, that's actually not true. Let's just talk about giant doors. That was a bad segue, but we'll talk about giant doors.
Only a giant fit through giant doorways.
Yeah, I guess everybody would fit through a giant doorway, but giants won't fit through regular doorways.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I know what you meant.
Yeah, I want to give credit to Alternative Theory. He was a friend of mine on TikTok, and he was telling me how hard it was for him to match up that Rolling Stones song with the beat to fix the doors. And I told him, I said, sadly, I'm going to have to remove that music because there's no way that's going to make it to YouTube. It's a big copyright. But yeah, I think that's a really interesting video. I mean, obviously, we've talked about giant doors, and lots of people have. But when you show that many of them, you do have to ask the question why. Like I said, I know that what we believe in this community, or actually, I'm not even sure what we really believe, because it's the thing it's really kind of hard for me to really like wrap my mind around is these are old world structures. And so some people in this community would say they're millennial reign structures. So why do they have giant doors? In a lot of these places, people talk about they don't even have bathrooms in these places. So it's, what is going on with these places? It's really hard for me to understand. But I mean, yeah, you do have to reconcile why were people making doors this big when the typical man is about 5'9", 5'10", and then the door is about, I don't know what some of those doors look like they were over 20 feet tall.
Bro, it's people like think of Lord of the Rings and stuff. I know like that video was great, but there was a few of them that were duplicates. There's a lot of duplicates they put in there, and then there was the one photo with the dog. It was like a modern door, but other than that, every one of them was pretty cool. But the thing is, like, there is a lot of these doors, and when we think about this stuff, we think about like Lord of the Rings, like how like there's like the giant statues, right, in your mind, and you're just like, oh wow, like guys. That stuff exists now. Those doors are real. Still to this day, you can walk and go see them. And it's like, bro, just imagine walking through one of those doors and you're like realizing like, dude, why are they so big? Like the latches are up high, bro. The latches are on the top of the freaking thing. They're not even human reachable, some of them. And it's like they had to like reposition them or cut little doors inside the big doors because the little doors were it was just like obviously convenience. But like nobody needs doors that big in some of those things. Like some of those doors are so massive there's no reason for the doors to be that big. But did you know the doors of the temple were actually that big, of the temple of Jerusalem originally? Did you know that? They were like,
well, I mean, I know that the Bible obviously gives very specific dimensions for everything that's built at times. I don't really remember them talking about how big the temple door was.
Well, Josephus talked about the door. He said it was made out of. They're made out of solid
stone. I know he says
in
the second temple, not the first temple.
Yeah, the second temple.
What wasn't it like a copper or bronze door?
Yeah, he said it was fitted with copper or bronze as the fasteners, but it was a stone door made out of one single slab of stone. He said, and it was fitted so perfectly balanced on the copper or brass fittings but it still required 20 men.
Yeah, 20 men to move it. Yeah, to move the door.
Men to push a door open. Like, bro, that's like not even. I don't even know if you could consider that a door. Like that's just a friggin' rock on a pivot. Like,
that is. I mean, we know that the Bible was not talking about giants going into the house of the Lord. So I don't know that giants is not the answer for that, but. I guess the only real practical reason why you'd make a door real big is because you had to put something in the building that's really big. So,
but the door was made supposedly, according to the occultic text, by the giants. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, but not. I mean, not as far as we know about the second temple. So the interesting part about, and I think this is always the kind of part about the Bible that, at least the modern canon of the Bible, that you lead up to the very end of the Old Testament. It's literally about them just being rebuilt the second temple, and they give the dimensions. So what people don't know about mostly is that, so in the times of Herod the Great, so right around when Jesus was born, he had altered the temple. He had put all kinds of improvements, and so it was probably unrecognizable compared to what, like the times of Nehemiah and Ezra, what they built. Because if you look at the dimensions of the second temple, it's not anywhere near as impressive as the first one. But by the times of Jesus, it's obviously some incredible megalithic structure, and that's why in Matthew 24 it starts off with the apostles saying, "Look how amazing this temple is! Look how amazing all these stones are!" And that's when Jesus says it's going to be destroyed. But yeah, so we don't really know what Herod the Great did or why he did it, but it's pretty likely to. I mean, he didn't do it for God. Put it that way. He didn't do it for God.
But here's the interesting part too: is like, the Lesser Keys of Solomon mentioned that the second temple obviously was built.
The first temple.
No, the first temple was built by the fallen angels in some regard. Okay, this is the Lesser Keys of Solomon. We don't believe this text, but it is interesting and it is historical to some degree. But it talks about them being built, and if you look at the temple structure,
we're using demons.
They're using demons, but Nephilim demons. Okay, they weren't just normal demons because he was able to.
Well, they had to take some kind of. They had to be some kind of physical way because they had to move physical things because otherwise it makes no sense.
He was able to throw his ring at their chest in order to command them to do what he said. So he had a ring that he threw at their chest. So they had to be physical enough that he could throw something at them, right? So they had to be physical demons that had some kind of super strength or rock manipulation control, right? And so from that perspective, but if you look right now, even to this day, the floor of the temple still exists, right? The Dome of the Rock is on it. Bro, there is massive megalithic stones, massive megalithic stones that make up the floor of the temple floor.
Well, no, I don't think that that's the temple floor. I think obviously it could be something else because it does say that everything was destroyed. I think even Josephus,
the stones on top of the ground.
Well, the foundations
that's
were
what I'm talking about.
the foundations were ripped up too. Every stone was down.
So you don't think the temple floor is the
No,
temple floor
I
that
don't.
we have
I don't
today?
know exactly what that is, but no, they I think even Josephus wrote that when the temple was burned, the gold melted down into the foundations, and the Romans went in there and dug up the foundations of the place to get all the gold out. So it was like it was just as Jesus said. Everything was destroyed. I mean, that's why they say like there's the Wailing Wall and it was part of the original. No, it's not. Who knows what that was part of, but not part of the thing that was destroyed. So yeah, no, but it is interesting to think though that I've long concluded too that if giants are the ones responsible for building the most amazing megalithic structures that the world has ever seen, like the ones that are seemingly unexplainable, places like Baalbek, Turkey, with the trilithon stones and these millions of pound stones, unbelievably one piece. And so they die, according to Enoch, these giants, they become the unclean spirits of the world. So they would have knowledge of how things were done. And obviously it has something more to do, I believe, than them just being big, because you have to have, they're big, but they also had some kind of technology, or they had some kind of witchcraft. Whatever they did, they had some other means other than, because they're not just dumb brutes, because they're not just picking up stones, because these places are incredible. They're not just, it's not like the dolmens that are just like look like rough kind of stones stacked on top of each other. These things are like, these temples were super legit, and that's why they're still impressive today.
Yep. It's very fascinating, very weird, but I definitely think that the large doors, I don't know. I just say it's definitely indicative of giants. I mean, why would...
But what do you think about, the thing about it, I think the crazier part to me is that, so we talk about in the old world research, you can go to your local town if it's old enough. Let's just say it dates back to the 1850s. I almost guarantee you there is a old church there, or an old courthouse, an old post office, whatever it is, and the door there is gigantic. Probably like it might be as little as 12 feet tall, or it might be as big as like 18 feet tall. And so this is what we're told was built in the 1800s. And of course, if we don't believe that, we believe it was older than that. We're still talking about what we believe in the short season is that this was built in the millennial reign times. So yeah, there's a church. I said I did some research there down in downtown Norfolk. Yeah, and I think the doors were probably about 16 foot tall. So like, what would they need to be putting in this place in order to justify making doors that big? And of course, the funny part in that video is you can see that they have little doors added into the doors, right? Or sometimes you can tell that they took the big door out and they framed around it, and then they put regular human-sized doors in there because, probably because the latch is too tall for me even to reach. Mm-hmm. But there's a real funny video, and I may have to try to dig this up, where was this guy trying to close this door, I think in some kind of place in Europe, and it was just like, and he's like pushing the door. You know what I'm talking about, Brian? It's like one of these huge doors, and it's just like, it's creaking the whole time. And the latch is probably 8 foot in the air.
You tell me who these doors were built for. Us little people who are struggling to close this big door, let alone trying to get that latch way up on top. Or was it built by a different people? A people that once shared this realm with us. A much larger people. We truly do look so tiny next to some of these doors. Some of them even have nice little doggy door entrances for us. To make it easy for us little people. Kind of like little pet doors in them. That is why I think for a large period of history anyways, we shared this realm with them and worked hand in hand with them. Much like humanity, there was some good and some bad, and some in between. But we experienced this world together. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
So, yeah, so what's your explanation on why these cathedrals that, I mean, who knows exactly how old they are? Why would a cathedral need a door that's as big as shown? Is it because a big angel might show up there one day and need to be able to walk in?
Angels are known for being very large, so it would not, yeah, they absolutely would be like angels, in my opinion. They're known for being massive, and that's why the Nephilim are massive, because when the angels made with the women, the children turned out being big, because angels are huge. So, yeah, I mean, totally makes sense.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? I think it was in Percy Jackson and maybe some of these other movies where they would show like the Greek mythology. So the gods were titans, and I know the older gods were called titans. But when they would show Zeus and Neptune and beings like that, when they were all around each other, they would be huge. They would be gigantic, like I don't even know, like 20, 30 feet tall, but they could appear as normal size when they were around people if they wanted to. And yeah, it's like, yeah, you wonder if that's how kind of angels could roll. Is like they're naturally really big, but then they appear at a certain height. And of course, I've been talking about Lord of the Rings a lot, and I'll probably continue to talk about it. Actually, this is just the Tolkien stuff. Is there's that place, the island city of Numenor, which has got a lot of Atlantis vibes. And the people who live there were giants. And of course, they live in the most beautiful old world looking place you've ever seen. What if it had something to do with, what if like the glorified saints are giants?
That's a weird one. I don't know, man.
You gotta have some kind of reason why you would have big doors for a church. Again, maybe
I think
unless
it's angels.
Could be.
I would say angels for sure, because angels are giant. They're huge. Several times I've had encounters with people that can see in the spirit, and they see angels, and they're massive.
All right. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. Oh, here's a real weird one. This could maybe tie into giants, because I know you have a famous quote from Abraham Lincoln about giants. But I just thought this video was really interesting, because I have floated the theory that, so if the old world stuff is true and a lot of the stuff that was existing in America predates the stories we're told about these presidents, well, then who are these presidents that are depicted in these massive giant statues like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln? What if they are something more than just the head man of the executive? You know what I'm saying?
Well, we know George Washington is Zeus, so I mean,
the way I wonder in like the symbology involved in the layout of the mall in DC. So you have the Lincoln Memorial, then you have a reflection pond, right? Then you have the Washington Monument, and then you have another one, and then you have I think there's another one, and then you have the Rotunda, you have the Capitol building. I think that's kind of weird, because it's like Abraham Lincoln, if you've ever been to the Lincoln Memorial, he's definitely a giant in that. It's really odd. And I think they say on the spring equinox, it's like the only time of the year where he's got full light on him. And it's obviously it's all based around the sun and stuff like that. It's really weird. But let's watch this video.
I wonder if Abraham Lincoln is also I wonder if that's just another reincarnate image of Zeus as well.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. Let's watch this video.
That.
Yeah, you have to see this video.
Especially with the penny. With the penny and the stuff they put on the penny is just so ridiculous.
Just a little video of this. Abraham Lincoln's tomb. He's buried down there. But anyway, looking at these artifacts, it looks like they're discovering Abraham Lincoln's tomb. And this is like a piece of the actual thing. and it's more like an archaeological find than, oh, this is Abraham Lincoln, one of the presidents that died. And it's just really, 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 really weird. And then I look behind, and the dates are the same dates as the reset. And then another thing is, there are Abraham Lincoln statues not only in America, but in Mexico and other places of the earth. So maybe he was some sort of Tartarian ruler. Who knows?
What? I didn't heard of Abraham Lincoln statues in other parts of the in Mexico.
We should probably look that up. I want to just try to check behind what he said, because that's a really weird thing that it's looking like they have pictures of them. Were they demoing his sarcophagus to get his body out? Like, why would they need to do that?
Dude, that's pretty weird. It's definitely it's definitely fishy. I want to know about the Abraham Lincoln statue in Mexico. I mean, what's even funnier is his name is Abraham, right? So it's Abraham. So, like, oh my gosh, Abraham Lincoln relationship with Mexico and recognition he received there are notable. Well, it wasn't. Dude, there is a statue of Abraham Lincoln in Mexico.
Is there?
There's a statue of Abraham Lincoln in Mexico.
Go ahead, share that.
And he's a giant. He's a giant, bro. Okay, you gotta just type it in. Well, I'm on my phone. I don't know. So you gotta pull it up on your screen.
Oh.
Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, Abraham Lincoln statue, Mexico.
Bro, yeah, there is a statue of Abraham Lincoln. That is hilarious. There's another one. Is there two of them? There might be two statues of him. There's a grave. It's like a tomb of him. Bro, that's not even the same one. That's like I don't know what that is. That's another one that I saw. That statue.
This one says it's in a park in Mexico City. Look at that.
There's another one. There's another one in Mexico.
But look at it closely, Brian. Look at the. There's like some kind of crack going through it, and it looks like it's art. It doesn't look like it's. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't really look like it's an actual crack.
I don't know. Maybe. Look at the other picture. There's another one. That
you see it?
Like,
you see it there? Like it looks like you can see that looks part of the design.
I don't know, maybe, but I feel like that could be a crack in it. That one too. Look at this one, and he's holding a chain that's broken. He has a broken chain. It's Lucifer. It's Lucifer again. It is.
You know what it looks like? I mean, obviously the natural connection would be that he freed the slaves, right? But it almost looks like it's around his wrist.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Doesn't it look like that? Like right there, it looks like, is that part of his collar, or is that? It looks like the wrist is yeah, maybe it's just in his hand and it's the way it looks, but he looks really weird right there, doesn't he?
Looks pretty evil. It looks very ominous. Like when you look at it, you're like,
yeah, it looks like, really
when
creepy.
If you didn't know who Abraham Lincoln was, that's a pretty ominous looking statue.
And just look at him. I know that it's a big
like
statue, but
Slenderman.
he certainly looks like a giant.
Well, he looks like a tall man. He looks like Slenderman.
He looks like he's about, even if it was just a regular man and they just make a big statue of him, he looks like he's about 7.5 foot tall.
Yeah.
8 foot tall.
Yep,
Just based on like
tall.
the kind of proportions of how long his legs are and how long his arms are and how long that neck is.
Yeah. He definitely looks like a tall dude for sure. Like they made him a tall guy for sure. Dang.
Yeah, that's in Tijuana. So they got more than one statue. So the one was in Mexico City, and that's in Tijuana. Here, I want to check this out. I want to read this article. Let's see if I can find out what it says about his tomb, because I think that this is really kind of this might be a big clue about how phony this history is. If they had to discover his tomb, I have a problem with that narrative.
Dude, they had to dig up Abraham Lincoln's tomb.
Well, let's see.
I'll
just
so
see.
Fascinating.
I'm looking into this right now, and it said, okay, so history says on April 16th, 1865, 2 days after President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, a group of Springfield citizens formed a National Lincoln Monument Association and spearheaded a drive for funds to construct a memorial or tomb. Upon the arrival of the funeral train on May 3rd, Lincoln lay in state in the Illinois State Capitol building for one night. After the funeral, the burial service the next day. His coffin was placed in a receiving vault in Oak Ridge Cemetery, the site Mrs. Lincoln requested for burial. In December, her husband's remains were removed to a temporary vault not far from the proposed memorial site. In 1871, 3 years after laborers had begun constructing the tomb, the Lincoln body and those of the three youngest of his sons were placed in the crypts unfinished. And then it said, in 1874, upon completion of the memorial, which had been designed by Larkin Goldsmith Mead, the Lincoln's remains were interred in a marble sarcophagus in the center of a chamber known as the catacombs or burial room. In 1876, however, two Chicago criminals failed in an attempt to steal Lincoln's body and hold it for ransom. The National Lincoln Monument Association hid it in another part of the memorial, first under wood and other debris, and then buried in the ground within the tomb. When Mrs. Lincoln died in 1882, her remains were placed with those of Lincoln. But in 1887, both bodies were reburied in a brick vault underneath the floor of the burial room. It said by 1895, the year of the state acquired the memorial, it had fallen into disrepair during a rebuilding and restoration program from 1899 to 1901. All 5 caskets were moved to nearby subterranean vaults. Following the completion and restoration, the state officials returned them to the burial room and placed that of Lincoln in a sarcophagus it had occupied in 1874 to 76. Within a few months, however, Robert Todd Lincoln, the president's only surviving son, Lincoln's remains were moved to their final resting place in a concrete vault 10 feet below the surface of the burial room. In 1930-31, the state reconstructed the interior of the memorial in Art Deco style, rededicated later by Herbert Hoover. It has undergone little change since that. The Lincoln tomb was designed by the National Historic Landmark in 1960.
Bro, why was there so much moving of this one dude's body, dude? Like, there's just this, like...
Bro.
I don't... And, look, there's a monument behind him. Like, what is... Dude, this is just nonsense. Like, bro, do we even believe our history at this point? This is ridiculous.
Dude, that... I love it. Because this is what JT's mixtape is supposed to be about, is the fact that we saw this video and it's like, yeah, what are we supposed to do with that idea that, like, they moved him, like, how many times?
Bro,
it fell into disrepair.
His body's not in that tomb at all. Like, they did something with his bones. Who knows what his bones were?
I mean, like,
why would somebody try to steal his bones and hold it?
That is such a fake story. Like, seriously, it's like, we're gonna go dig up some old dead guy and hold his body for ransom. What?
Dude, that is so nonsensical. That is so fishy. There is something else going on there, for sure.
I mean, again, Napoleon, if he actually said this, or if whoever said this, they were correct. History is a set of lies agreed upon. But some of these lies are absurd. Like, this don't make a lick of sense that you bury a man and, like, I mean, for most of the people that I know who have died, we never had to move them anywhere. But around this fishy time in our history, again, I pointed out that video that I made, and we brought it up on JT's mixtape, was that woman was shown in San Francisco that they got rid of this famous graveyard, and they literally lined the streets and the gutters and made bulkheads out of people's mausoleums and tombstones. What if the dates on the original tombstones didn't say what they wanted them to say? And maybe that's why they fell into disrepair and they had to be remade and all this kind of stuff.
Fell into disrepair. It's such a ridiculous thing to say. Like, it's just like, dude, it deteriorated. It's freaking stone. And what's with them digging up the photos of them digging up that broken apart stone looking ancient tomb looking thing? Like, what's that
thing
about?
was thick. That thing does not look like it would have any issues holding up for, decades, or I don't know, thousands of years.
Let alone 200 years.
Yeah, let me pull up that picture again. It kind of reminds me of, dude. It reminds me of when we've talked about the Serapeum, right?
Yeah.
And they couldn't get into those big boxes. Remember?
Huh?
And they had to, like, dynamite them and blow them up.
Yeah, they had to blow them up just to get into see the corner of them.
Yeah, I should try to figure out where it's at on the video where that is. Yeah, that's. I mean, all you can really do is laugh about this stuff because I mean, if you believe this stuff, I mean, I don't really know what to tell you. Pieces of the sarcophagus. Look how thick that stone is.
Bro, look at those cracks, dude. It's like crazy looking. Bro, look at that. Sarcophagus. Dang, that is huge. It's some crazy stone there.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. You guys can believe whatever you want, but I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a
You can
second.
believe whatever you want. Love it.
I mean, seriously, like what? I mean, like, what kind of story is that?
I don't know. It's ridiculous, though. It is pretty funny.
You know, so this is interesting too. This falls a little bit in line with the mysterious circumstance of the death and burial of George Washington, which famously we're told that they wanted to bury him in the Capitol building. So there's a place called the crypt in there, but his body is not in there. So they would have went through all this trouble to bury our, like 8th or 16th president, depending on who you ask. We're told the first president in this place in the Capitol building that they built specifically for him, but he was not actually buried there.
Bro, where's Jimmy Carter? Didn't Jimmy Carter just die? Didn't he die? What are we doing with his body? That president, right?
You're not thinking about trying to steal his body and hold it for ransom, are you?
I'm just thinking he's probably just in a cemetery somewhere.
I never even thought that'd be a good idea. How much do you think we could get for Jimmy? I mean, he's not quite Abraham Lincoln.
Dude, when Obama dies, I wonder if they'll like make a whole monument to him too or something.
Well, the thing is, here, I mean, obviously in this space, as we're speculating wildly, that these people are men. And when they die, it's like nobody's going to care about their dead bones, right? Yeah. I mean, their loved ones will, I guess. But the majority of people are going to have moved on a long time before they pass away, right? Unless it's sudden. But in this circumstance, it is weird. I mean, it's very weird that, again, if we don't really believe that the founders and the people who supposedly built America built these structures, it is kind of like something you have to reconcile with. Like, so what do you do with these men who do look like they're being deified? And I do mean that they look like, I mean, like people like George Washington. I mean, like literally he's being deified in the Capitol building. He's like, that's what you have the apotheosis of George Washington. He has statues where he looks just like Zeus. But yeah, if you go into the Lincoln Memorial, as I said, he doesn't look like a man. I mean, I think it's sort of weird to make a statue of a man, that the man looks like he's about 20 feet tall.
What if it was just a made-up story altogether and he was just some dude, and then they just picked this random dude to be like, this is the Abraham Lincoln, and he was so great and amazing, and that's part of the reason why the people stole it. They were probably like, what is this ridiculous story? They're trying to, like, promote this fake thing about this dude and deify him after he was just some dude that got buried, right? And he just lived his life. And then all of a sudden the Masons step in and they deify him. And then the other people are like, dude, this is ridiculous how much they're deifying this guy. Let's go steal his body, like, just to play with them or something. Like, you know, like, I don't know. I almost feel like that could be a scenario that, like, happened because it just seems so ridiculous. It seems so absurd.
Well, I think that I mean, the thing is, I think that obviously this man or whatever this being was real. Now, I think the story of maybe him being the 16th president and all that kind of stuff, that's probably the false part here. But I mean, yeah, look at him. You can see how big the column.
That's Zeus right there, bro. That's Zeus sitting in his throne.
Again, looking very ominous, like, right? The way he's kind of depicted there. But you see the people, you see how big he is. Actually, he's way bigger than 20 feet tall. Right?
Yeah, if he was standing, I don't know. Yeah,
if he's standing, he looks massive.
Yeah, he'd be like probably like at least 30, 40 maybe.
And so look even back on the inscription on here. It says, in this temple, what does it say? The hearts of the people to whom saved the Union, the memory of Abraham Lincoln is enshrined forever.
Wait, the hearts of the people?
Yeah.
Are they saying like human sacrifice? Is that what we're talking about here?
It's like I said, I'm missing part of it from the thing, but But again, why? It actually says it's a temple.
That's funny.
It's telling, dude. It's telling. It's clearly like the vibes you get when you see even with the Parthenon in Nashville. That was obviously a copy of the one, supposedly a copy of the one from ancient Greece, where I think in Greece they might have had the statue of Zeus, and then the one here in America in Nashville has Athena in there, and so everybody knows that that's a temple. And it's weird that we have the Lincoln
temple.
Memorial literally says it's a temple, and it has a being that's probably, again, if he stood up, would probably be close to the same size as those other titans or gods. That's weird. That's weird if the story we're taught about this guy was legitimate and it was not just a bunch of made up stuff.
Bro, just looking at that temple that you showed me just now. Let's call it the temple. I'm not going to call that the
Lincoln. It's the Lincoln Temple.
Lincoln Memorial.
The Lincoln Temple.
The temple. Yeah, we're going to call it the Lincoln Temple. So just look at that Abraham Temple. Okay, Abrahamic Temple. We'll call it. Just look at that thing, and like the reality of it is like that is so clearly a Roman-esque. Homage to the Greek gods. Like, it's so obvious. You got to be so completely naive to not recognize it, bro. I feel like if a random person was dropped there and didn't know about our history, they would be like, "This is a temple to Zeus." They would be like, what is this? Like, that's what it would look like. That's
look at
exactly
this, bro.
What it would look like. Look at that. That's a temple. That's a Greek. I wonder what those pillars are made out of.
They're probably made of like solid granite or something like that. I'm not even sure,
those pillars are solid. I wonder.
Well, I mean, no, you can see they're made in pieces, but I'm saying like that it's made of just granite. I mean, it's not anything else. It's made of...
Well, that's how they made the pillars back then. They just they cut them in little sections like that. So I wonder if it's solid. I wonder if those are, or if it's like fake. I wonder if it's like, you know what I mean, like faux, or if it's like actual solid granite pillars there.
Okay, so maybe he looked a little bigger in that. So maybe he's probably
he is.
He's probably about, I don't know, let's just say
25,
a man's
maybe.
probably as tall as up to his knee, right?
Yeah. Maybe up to his knee, yeah. Maybe a little less than the knee.
So he's probably close to 18 feet tall, something like that. If he stood up.
Yeah. That's either way he's pretty massive.
Either way, he's a giant. He's definitely a giant.
Definitely Zeus-ish.
It's definitely a temple, and this is not a conspiracy theory. Okay, here it says in this temple, as in the hearts of the people for whom he saved the Union, the memory of Abraham Lincoln is enshrined forever. So in this temple, Abraham Lincoln is enshrined forever.
They're saying it's a temple, like straight up. I mean, like, it's a religion, guys. Like, the United States is a religion. If you don't believe it's a religion, it says temple. like what do you freaking think it is? It's a false religion. That's literally what it is.
Yeah, that's the thing. I remember I made a video a while back, and this is before I discovered kind of the old world stuff. And I said, when you see, like, when they find ancient things, they always either say they're temples or tombs. There's pretty much nothing in between when they ever find anything, right? So I said, what if this nation fell into disrepair and a later civilization started to dig it up? If they dug up the state capitol buildings in places like that, obviously they would conclude that they're temples. Because what else we don't make buildings like that we don't make buildings like that anymore, period. But when we do make buildings that resemble that, yeah, they're places of worship. So it is funny, to see that it's obviously stamped right on the wall that it is a temple. Mm-hmm. So who goes and worships there? And yeah, when you see all the other symbolism with the Washington Monument and the empty tomb where George Washington did not get laid, that is laid to rest, by the way. Yeah. No, I mean, obviously you do have the phallic symbol and the pregnant belly and all that stuff. But yeah, it's weird. It's weird. So anyways, we've probably talked too much about that. Let's move on. Let's see if I got one more video. And by the way, guys, there's definitely going to be a Patreon cut because I got a few videos I want to share. But I said, oh yeah, I got a nice segue into that as we were just talking about the Capitol building in the rotunda. This is really interesting. And of course, this tracks with everything else we're talking about. Check out this video.
Okay.
So this is one of the neat things about the U.S. Capitol. Of course, this building, construction started in the 1700s. And there are all sorts of little hidden passageways. You saw I just pulled this cover up. Yeah. And you can see, if we get the camera to come over, don't fall in. We don't need a workers' comp claim today. But you can see there's a passageway. These were long stairs that used to be here that were closed off. We're just off of what's called Statuary Hall, which at one time was the actual House chamber. So, and it's outside there. But this is just an example of some of the little hidden secrets in the Capitol. And so one of the things when we bring tour groups in, if it's a small enough group, if it's a big group, we can't do it. But if it's a small group, we'll actually take them down this hall. Believe it or not, my big self have actually gotten down, and more importantly, out of this hall. I'm not going to debut that again for today, but suffice to say, I've been able to live and tell about it and get out of there. But it goes all the way down. It's an old staircase, and I'm told, I can't verify this, I'm told that this staircase, which opens to, if you go down, it formerly opened to the outside, was one of the staircases that British soldiers used when they breached the Capitol during the War of, I think it was 1814, when they actually attacked Washington. When they came in, it was one of the stairs that British soldiers actually came up. So a lot of just amazing history in this building. And so when folks come from North Carolina, we try to show things that if it's a small enough group, things are timed right, and actually let folks go down there. The kids seem to love it. A lot of older folks, not so much. But it's just one of the neat things about the Capitol is
super interesting and suspicious and cool. And it's like, bro, like, what is that? Like, how did they find the entranceway to that? It's like clearly a secret passage of some kind. Like, what is going on there?
Well, I mean, it's weird. So he didn't even try to explain why it's there. He said, "Oh, the British soldiers used it. Was it built for them?
Yeah, how did
to invade the Capitol building because they knew a secret way to get in it?" Like, that whole story is ridiculous. Okay, so if I'm trying to wrap my mind around what he's talking about. Okay, so there's underground things under the Capitol, right? I guess that's the first floor. And you go down into the secret tunnels that are under the Capitol building. Okay, so the rest of it would have been under the ground. So how did the British soldiers gain access to it?
Yeah.
Right?
Know about the secret passageway.
Well, I mean, it seems to me, and like maybe I'm wrong, that you have to get inside the building first in order to gain access to the secret things that are under the Capitol building. Unless it didn't always look like it does now, because how could they get in from the underground? Unless they knew that there was other tunnels, and these tunnels linked to where the Capitol building was. And they did, and he's not wrong about that. They did gain access through some kind of means. What if, as we were talking about Tucker Carlson having Catherine Fitz on, what if that there's a complete underground part of all of DC, and it's very old, and that's how they gained access, because they gained access to the underground city under DC.
I don't know, man. I think like maybe they we do know that those are that old photos of the thing where it's like you see the old photo of Washington, and you see it where they're digging it up. You know
let
what I
me
mean?
see.
And there was all that underground stuff and structures underneath it where they were digging up the ground, and you're like, what's all that underneath there? I don't know if that's real or what, but
yeah, it's real.
Yeah, that. Look at that. What's that about?
Yeah, it's weird. It's like there's columns under the stairs. So you wouldn't do that if it's just part of a foundation or a basement. It looks like that once was something else. But right, so so just see now. Obviously, picture what I'm saying is that. So how would the British soldiers have got in it if the dirt was up to the, basically where the steps are? Where did they sneak in? You had to get access to the inside first to get and gain access to the secret part under it, unless there was another place. Those construction phony pictures are so funny. You know what I'm saying, Brian?
Yeah. I don't know. It's so
Look, there's another
unusual.
place right there. I'm not even sure which building that might be. The Treasury Building, which is insane in itself.
What's with this, like, all deep underneath dug out space?
That's what I'm saying. It all goes under there. I mean, that's what I believe. I believe that there's stuff under all of them. I bet you there's secret tunnels that connect to all of them. In some cases, they're not really secret tunnels. They actually tell us about it.
Yeah. That's really fascinating.
It's really sus. It's really sus. Of course, like I said, I don't trust any of it. Again, our history is a set of lies agreed upon, but I have not agreed. I don't agree.
I disagree.
Yeah, I disagree vehemently. All right, so guys, if you guys want to check out the uncensored version, this will be on Patreon. So if you guys do not, well, you're seeing this Monday and not early. And God bless you guys. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Check out Modern Roots Life. Please get a t-shirt if you'd like to. Yeah, we got all the sizes and colors in the Jesus Said There Would Be Haters shirts. Check those out. Appreciate you guys. Love y'all. God bless.
Everyone left me. Everyone deserted me. Jesus was always there. When everyone hated me and walked away, Jesus never walked away.